My cam died.
What's that?
Said my cam at home died. You got any good replacements? Any ideas for good replacements?
I haven't gotten one in a while, but the last ones that I've had have been just some nice Logitech ones that were like in the $60, $70 range and really just work nice for that price. They've all come down so much that really, you know, you can get, and that'll be a nice high def cam. So right now I'm actually just using the camera on my Samsung Chromebook. So it's not the highest definition, but it does the trick.
Looks good.
Yeah. So yeah, my other laptop has just been acting up, so I didn't even want it. It's like, why even mess with it? I just do the Hangout on the Chromebook, and it works just fine. Yeah. Looking at myself on the screen, it looks lower resolution, but hey, who cares? Something I was going to say is right now I've got, and I don't you be looking, Wes, you can just be listening because you're driving. But Mark, I'll just show you. I've got a spreadsheet open from Google Docs that is some notes I've been taking of Android Wear versus Google Glass. And not for it to be a competition, but just my observations of the things that are different. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And yet then I also have a Google Doc that is my talking points for the meeting. And so I'm used to having these up on a computer, but instead I thought I'm going to go simplified, just use the Chromebook to do the actual talking on the Hangout, and then use my phone to pull up the spreadsheet. Yet I can't, if I try going just back to my home screen and think, okay, well, I've got that one open, and now I'm going to go to Drive and open up the talking points. I can't because I've got the other one open. It's like, and I might be missing something, but I would hope that, because one is a Google Doc, the other one is a Google Sheet. So let me try, maybe if I just go to Docs. Do I actually, yeah, I do have, so there's Docs, and so that the talking points are a doc. So let me see if I'm able to do that. Ooh, wait a minute. There's the solution. Instead of going to Drive. Now, of course, where you still have a problem, I bet, is if you had two documents or two sheets you wanted to open. So now I do have my talking points open that are in a Google Doc. I go to my multitasker, yes, and now I've got this. You can see that the next one up is the spreadsheet. So the one is the document. But, so it's cool. I just figured that out here on the fly. But I bet you it'd still be a little problematic if you try to do the both, and a little bit of a drag because you could have a need where you might want to be bouncing back and forth between two of them. So I don't want to be heavy on Android Wear, but I am going to talk about Android Wear tonight and then some other stuff as well. But I am eager to talk about what my findings are. It's been about just, a little over 2 weeks now that I've had the watch. I think so. Wait a minute. No. Did I get it last Monday? No, time flies. I think it has been 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks yesterday that I got it, yes. And so obviously unique situation of having Glass and Wear. That's why I've been trying to gather my thoughts, and I want to do a write-up on it, maybe a little video thing, because some of it might require talking and showing. And so I'm going to share some of that tonight. But I'd also like to, later on this week, I'm going to put out a post to everybody who usually is involved in MyMobileVille, or at least those locally, and talk about getting a get-together, maybe sometime in August or something, to where it would be a physical one. Not necessarily on the night of the Hangout, but just one. Try to pick a night. Maybe I'll do a survey, pick a night that works for people, what night works best, pick a location that's kind of centrally located, and have a get-together to where could just be showing off, talking about the latest hardware, but it would just be more of just like hanging out, having drinks, food, wherever we might pick a location to do it at. Because it would be cool right now to be showing people the Wear, but at the same time, as I'm going to talk about with some of the stuff with Wear, it's kind of tough to do demos with it sometimes. And Norton released this statement today. I hear the news.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what you say hi to my mom. say hi to Matt, Mom.
No word on any possible appeal.
Say hi, Matt.
Judge's ruling
Hello.
will much more on this tonight at 10 o'clock, including comments from the families of Tommy.
That's my dad.
Indiana man is sentenced to 50 years.
I've never seen this stuff.
Hello.
Girlfriend's baby to death. Judge said
Matt says hello, Dad. I live with them now, and my father has some conditions. He has Parkinson's. And
Is that the first time they've seen somebody on a hangout?
yeah, they've never seen anything at all.
Well, cool. I was happy to be able to say hey and show them. My parents get a big kick out of doing hangouts, and if it weren't for me guiding them, they wouldn't be doing them. But so regarding the Android Wear, is that, and I'm going to go into more detail on it, is that when you go to suddenly do a demo with it, like right now, let me get the screen to being just on me here, that the screen is kind of like in a dim condition right now. So then when it actually lights up, you'll see that then there's kind of a background to it, and it's also makes it harder for the camera to see it because it's trying to adjust. But there's a notification right now that says that's the MyMobileVille Hangout, and so that's actually a calendar event that just came on up. So when I tap on that, then if I tap on that little card down at the bottom, little toaster, now it filled the screen. And again, it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I'll turn down my screen brightness. That might help. Hold on just a moment. If I turn down the brightness, then the camera won't freak out quite so much. There we go. Let's try this. Okay, let's see if that helps. All right, so you can see that it's got the little toaster at the bottom, and then if I touch that, then it will bring it up so that I can see more detail of that. And then if I swipe it away, now there's another one that says, oh, that's need help finding my phone, which is an app I'm going to talk about. It's also showing another Google Now card that just happens to be some stocks. I'll swipe that one away. There's the temperature, another Google Now card. So if somebody was playing with this right now and I gave it to them, then they could have swiped those away because everyone normally wants to tap, swipe, and try it out. And then what you end up getting is now there's nothing, because now it's basically, I just ripped my headset off my head, that now it's basically just at the time with the background picture. Now you see it just even went dark. And there's nothing else really to be able to interact with it as it stands, well, aside from some of the Google functionality that I'm going to talk about here in a moment. But so that demo-wise, you can do some demos from the phone and be able to launch some cards as examples, everything from a weather card to a sports card and that kind of thing. So you can show somebody. But as far as if we were like physically in a room like we've been in the past, and I were to pass this around, the first person who would go ahead and start swiping and making the cards disappear would now render it basically nothing impressive for someone as they're passing it on around the room except to just physically see it. And if you've seen the Galaxy Gear, this is basically the same piece of hardware as the Galaxy Gear minus the camera. Otherwise, then they basically, Samsung took the easy route and just put Android Wear onto the same piece of hardware essentially. So demos are a little tougher on this than they are, say, even with glass. You put glass onto someone's head and you say, hey, swipe through, try doing this, doing that. Now that said, one of the things that, even though that there's no like Google Now cards or any functionality here now, if I do tap on the screen, you'll see that the screen will go white, and then Google's going to be listening. I'm trying to do this backwards while I'm looking at the camera. There we go. Now you see that it's listening to what I'm going to be saying. So this is just like as if you said, okay, Google, or tapped your microphone, and so right now you can see the words, or even it's listening to what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm going to swipe that away for a moment, and I can also just activate that when the screen is active. Watch it go dim again. It takes a moment, and then the screen will go dim. And then that's kind of like the Moto X, to where it's just got that active display, very low power usage, just showing you the date and time. This will be different depending on the watch face. So I'm just using a watch face where I like where it's got big and bold, got the time, and then underneath it's got the date. And so it says that it's 22 July and that it's a Tuesday. So then that's the watch face that I chose. So again, you can see I moved it and then it woke up momentarily. So when it's on your wrist and then you turn your wrist, it wakes up, and then you have the chance at that point to end up saying, okay, Google, just like you could when tapping on the microphone or saying, okay, Google, to your phone, or likewise with glass. And then you can do any of those kind of Google type commands. That's where right now, as a matter of fact, I just said, okay, Google, and my phone is over here doing a search on what I was talking about. I'm going to turn it off for a moment so that it doesn't screw up. So that said, one of the things that someone can see for a demo is just doing one of those, okay, Google, and then doing some sort of command. I'll give an example, and let me first tap on it just to show, because it illustrates to you, if you swipe up from the bottom, there's a little arrow. You swipe up, then it says suggestions like take a note, drink more water, remind me to go for a run at 7 a.m., show me my steps, show me my heart rate, send a text to Eve, see you later, email Eve, are you free on Friday, agenda for today, navigate to a gas station nearby, set a timer for 60 minutes, and then they've got other ones like set an alarm for 7 a.m., show alarms, and then there's start, because there are some quote apps that are on the device that you could launch. One of them being like the heart rate app, another one being steps, another one being a stopwatch, a compass. And so you could say, okay, Google, start compass, and then it would launch the compass. So otherwise, let me just back up, and one of the interesting things, so it's awake, and I say, okay, Google, remind me when I get to work to talk to Joe. All right, so there it is. The reminder is now set. Talk to Joe at work, and it's saving. There's a little cancel button there if you hit the X, if all of a sudden it was not correct. I'm surprised. Usually I have demo fail. I'm always famous for having demo fail, and it actually worked this time because sometimes what I've discovered that it'll do is actually do a search for that term rather than actually do that Google Now command. But I do use that a lot. It's very handy, particularly if you share your location of home and work with Google so that it knows. Then you can say those particular reminder names and set something that easy. And I find it a lot that I might be at work and I think of something, okay, as soon as I get home, I'll remember to do such and such. And I just do it quickly from the watch. I could do it from the phone as well, but it's just an example of something that you could do from the watch very quickly. I could also, and I'll wake it up. I'll turn it so I can get it to wake up here, or I'll just tap it. Okay, Google, what is my agenda? And now it's just showing what my agenda is, obviously the MyMobileVille meetings, but it's just pulling it on up and you can scroll on through it. And then if you did want to take more action, you swipe on over, and usually one of the, oops, no, not be on that one, is that more action will be to open on phone. So that can be an option on some of the things when you go and you have a result for something. If I were to get a text message coming in, the text message would show up on here, and I could reply to the text message, or same thing with an email. You could choose to reply or answer it on the, that you'd open it on the phone. So it's not supposed to be a replacement. You're not supposed to be doing all this heavy lifting while using the device itself. It's really supposed to just be kind of those notifications, very much like Pebble, but taking it to the next level to where there's a lot of functionality the developers are going to be able to build onto this. It's still very early in the game with the Wear, but now I'll show you something else that another developer actually made for the watch, and it's actually a mini app launcher. And he made it so if you swipe, and I'm going to be swiping up near the top corner here of the phone, and I swipe across, I now have a little mini app launcher. And some people have said, hey, that's not the way that this is supposed to be used. You know, Android Wear is supposed to be, if you need to open one of those, quote, apps that's like just for Android Wear, then you should just say, okay, Google, start, and name the app. But some people say that that's just, it takes too long. Sometimes it doesn't know the name of the app. Like one of them is the IFTTT, the if this then that app. You actually have to say if this then that. So if someone doesn't know that and they say, okay, Google, open IFTTT, it won't open. So instead, I can swipe on over, got this little app drawer, and then there is the IFTTT app, which it doesn't really, I don't have anything, like, so you can see the first screen it ends up showing is add a recipe, and it's going to have you go to your phone to add a recipe. And I'm swiping over, there's no more cards. So that's the only functionality I've got there. The thing is that there are some recipes on IFTTT that you could do something from the watch. And so that's why you might want to launch into that particular one. Let me swipe over again, and I'll show that I've also got Evernote. Now, granted, if I'm going to look something up on Evernote, I'm just going to pull out my phone. But if I did want to, and it times out pretty quickly, so by the time that I go to show it on the screen. So I'm tapping on Evernote. Now, it brings up, I keep ripping my headset off. It brings up a little search for Evernote. So then I could tap on Find, and it's now listening. So let me swipe back over, and I'm going to choose, I'll go to Evernote, I'm going to tap on Find, Blackie. Okay, so this is my cat, and I know I'm going to have a bunch of notes that are going to be for, okay. So there is, well, the first note came on up, a little toaster, saying Blackie at Shively Animal Clinic back in April. So I swipe on up, and there's other choices. I can keep swiping through. So there's, swipe through another one. Look at, there's actually the actual thing I scanned, I took a picture of to add the paperwork from when we were at the vet. And then if I swipe over, then it says open on phone. I tap on that, that Evernote is going to open up on my phone right then. So I've not, honestly, in 2 weeks, I have not even, I've just played with it as far as doing a search for something in Evernote, but I have not purposely said, I need something in Evernote, let me pull it up on the watch first. And then go to the phone. I mean, I already know I'm going to use it on the phone, so some of these use cases, I just look and say, you know what, having that on my wrist is all well and fine for certain use cases, but if I want to look at a note in Evernote, in particular like this, it would have been something I might have either taken a picture of, so it's going to be full screen on my phone, or it might be a PDF, so it's going to even be like pinch and zoom to read the PDF on the phone, for which you might want to be looking at. Shoot, I may as well just start from the phone. What good does it do me to even search for it and open it from the app? But I appreciate the fact that Evernote added that functionality into their build for their file that installs onto phones, because they're trying to think of ways to be able to use Android Wear. Speaking of, there's nothing in particular that developers usually have to do for something to show up on Android Wear. If there are notifications that will just come up as a notification on your phone, then that notification is going to show up on Wear. If you want to have there be some additional functionality, say like with Evernote there, they built an extra part that is that search capability, then that is an additional thing. They actually made a separate little installation file in the apps in Google Play, which is not really the way that you should have to go about it. Google has said you should just, there's things that you can do just when you go to build your app for the phone that will just say, add this stuff, so that there's not like an app that you install onto Android Wear per se. Everything gets installed onto the phone and it just shows up on Android Wear. I wanted to pull up my little sheet here to just talk about a couple of the little nuances, because I've talked about glass plenty of times and just wanted to share some of the observations that I've made as far as like which one gets advantage over certain things. And that is, say, like with notifications, and that's just notifications in general. Particularly, say, like at work, I get notifications that show up in my notification curtain on my phone. I'll hear a chime and I look, and it is, we use Good as the email and calendar application. And so if there is an event that comes up, then it's going to have all that detail, will be right there in the notification curtain of saying the event starting at 10 a.m. is in such and such room, or maybe it's this conference number and this participant code for the conference number, and all that information would show on that notification. Well, now I'm getting that kind of notification right on Android Wear, and it fills the full screen when it comes up. So the entire 320 pixel screen has got that nice display from Good saying 10 o'clock, such and such phone number, in the East conference room or whatever. I'm able to just glance at that and then go about my way and say, okay, and so then likewise I can get those notifications in Glass, but I don't get all notifications like I would on the phone on Glass. Whereas all notifications that come up in that manner, be it if it's you've got a new text message, you've got a new email, these other kind of notifications that come from other apps, if they show up on the phone, they also will show up on Wear. You do have the chance on the phone in a little application for Android Wear to say, I want to blacklist certain ones and not let them be bothering me on my watch. I've not bothered to tweak any of those because so far the notifications that are coming through. Here's an example where I just got a notification from Google+, so you can see that it does fill the screen nicely for me to be able to see it. And then once it went dark, it kind of hid out of the way, but part of it still shows. So if I end up swiping up to turn it on, then I brought it back up. Now, in this particular case, for this notification, this is a little bit of a, back like I said, that there's only so much you should be doing in the watch. Instead, otherwise, it's really supposed to just be a companion to the phone. So I pull up that particular notification of Google+, and when I swipe over, then the only option is to open on phone. But at least when I would tap on that, I don't have to go digging around in the app to see that notification. It's going to show up on the phone. I will say that, and I'll show you, the phone right now is on. Okay, and when I would tap read on phone on this here, so let me bring it up. All right, and so I'm going to tap open on phone, and there it's opening up Google Plus right to that notification that was going on. I've noticed if the phone is locked, and I'm currently using the pattern lock on the screen because a couple of times I've pocket dialed with my phone being in my pocket, so I decided to put the lock on. That if you say open on phone on the watch, it's going to open, but you've got to unlock your phone first. So it's not like you just can go over and just suddenly it's right there that your screen is pulled up to it. If you've got a lock screen on, you're going to have to unlock, and then you'll see that it has opened up whatever it opened. So that's regarding notifications. Let me jump over to a couple other things that responding to a text message. I gave the advantage to this to Glass. I said on Android Wear you can respond to a text message via Wear if Google Hangouts is configured to receive your texts. Otherwise, the only option is to open the text on the phone. So then on Glass, I can send and receive messages in the short list of my most often accessed people. And so I just have more of an advantage of just being able to respond quickly. There's times where will also cut me off when I am doing a message. So I've sent somebody a partial message and I had to send another message because it immediately just sent, and I wasn't done talking, and it wasn't like I really had a pregnant pause or anything, but it just kind of cut off. And reading emails, when they come up on the watch, you're going to actually scroll through the email a little bit. It doesn't show the entire email, but you see a lot more volume of email than you would on Glass. Glass only shows a certain amount and then kind of cuts off, so it doesn't show quite as much. The setting of reminders, like I talked about earlier, to where I set that reminder to say, remember to talk to Joe when you get to work, works wonderful on Android Wear and on Glass. That functionality doesn't exist. It used to a while back, but then they changed to the build and that functionality. Right now I could not say to Glass, okay, Google, remind me when I get to work to such and such. Once again, my phone just heard me say that and woke up. So the advantage goes to Wear in that regard. Today, I had an example of a disadvantage of Wear, and I've experienced this before when it was raining, that I was walking, carrying an umbrella in one hand, a cup of coffee in the other, and I'm heading to a building and wanted to send a message to one of my peers to say just want to confirm which meeting room we're in, because it didn't say it in the invite. So I'm walking, it's raining, and fortunately I had glasses on, because then I tipped my head and said, okay, send a text. Sent the text. She answered back. I knew which meeting room to go to. While I was walking with that umbrella and my wrist was like this, I could not be able to turn and even wake up the watch, much less tap it, to initiate a text message. Today, I was wearing the watch, and I'm going to actually post this a picture of this later, because I looked over the glass and took a picture. I was standing in line, and my hands were full, and so that while I was holding stuff, my watch was basically facing the ground. I could hear it vibrate So there was some sort of notification, and I could not see it. And so I was like, wow, isn't this something? I was holding food in my hand and could not turn my wrist. So then I came up a little further while I was standing in line, and I set the stuff down for a moment, and then now I had my wrist turned around, and yet I was holding on to the other stuff now with my right hand, and now I wanted to manipulate the watch, and I realized I couldn't. I was trying to use my pinky while I'm holding stuff, and I was trying to operate the watch. So there's times to where really it's not as convenient when you could get a notification and your arm could be in a position to where you can't interact with the watch in the way that you would hope that you could. So all in all, I think that I give advantage to glass in a lot of instances. Not to say the glass is for everyone, but let me show one other thing that I just did today and I did a post on, is that I made this, and actually posted about it yesterday, but I did a video today. I put my Qdoba rewards card onto Google Keep, and then I've just pulled up Google Keep from that little application launcher, and now I've got the actual barcode of my Qdoba rewards. So I walked to Qdoba for lunch, and that's where I was standing in line and was holding on to stuff, and got on up to the scanner, stuck my wrist in front of the scanner, and boom, my rewards card was taken from my wrist. And of course, the girl was looking, like, wow, that's cool. So that was very handy, and something that you couldn't do with glass, because instances like that to where if there's going to be, as this will continue to grow to where maybe if you're at Starbucks and you've got the barcode that would just be your payment that's already set up for Starbucks and you just pay in that fashion, or the rewards cards or any other thing like that. There isn't a service called Level Up that's supposed to be a way where you've got a barcode and you can pay, but there's not many merchants, even in Louisville, that have Level Up as a method of payment, but they've got it now for Android Wear. So in those instances where you need to like display a barcode, image, a QR code, something to be scanned or to be viewed, there's the power of the Android Wear, in addition to just having like all your Google Now notifications and everything there. And there's where there's like an advantage over glass. Otherwise, if you're just having to look at notifications and respond to notifications with, which of course you can do with a touch on glass, or just be voice, you're acknowledging and you say okay, reply, that kind of thing, then glass has more of an advantage, because then it very much can be hands-free, as well as that there are no cameras. And, maybe there might be some Android Wear that comes out in the future and someone puts a camera into the model. This one and the LG G Watch do not have a camera. The Moto 360 that's coming out shortly doesn't have a camera. HTC is supposed to be close to releasing one. I don't believe theirs has a camera. I've heard some people say that they wish that these did, because like some of the other ones, the Galaxy Gear and some other devices that have a camera, while you might not use it a lot, that it still is a camera. The best camera is the one that you've got on you right at the moment. So if you did need to take a picture, to have that camera there could be convenient. But at least at this point, the intention is not for this to be a Swiss Army knife of things. And so again, with glass, I love that I've always got the camera there. I end up documenting a lot more of my life, sharing it with friends, family, etc. Certainly there's that privacy thing people can be concerned about, but I assure them that I'm not just willy-nilly just recording things. But I do appreciate having the camera there always when I do need, in an instance, to be able to take a picture, then I can, or record some video. So I'm capturing an awful lot more of my life for my own posterity, just to be able to watch later and enjoy, or stories in the Google Auto Awesomes that are made from Google Plus is very, very cool. So that said, that's kind of a quick and dirty of some of the features that are in Android Wear. There's certainly more to come. There's one other one I want to mention. It went off while I was getting set up. It's called Pair. It's nothing fancy, but it just basically says, I'll let you know when your phone gets left behind, because this doesn't have Wi-Fi. It's only operating off of Bluetooth from your phone, so you've obviously got that 30 foot or so range from your phone. And if you move away, it does show a little indicator at the top of the screen showing a little disconnect icon. So you basically have no data. It doesn't mean you can't do anything with the device, but you certainly are very, very limited as to what you could do with the device at that point, because certainly anything from that using Google Keep to that Evernote search or anything, all of that's requiring being connected to the internet. So it ends up just showing a little toaster message pops up at the bottom and says, looks like you've lost contact with your phone, and then there's the option for you to swipe over, tap on a button, and the phone starts chirping where it's at, so you can locate where your phone's at. So that's pretty cool, given the fact that unlike with glass in the house, if I happen to be connected to my phone and I suddenly got far enough away that I lost the connection with it, then I'm on Wi-Fi with glass. So it would seamlessly just transition on over and be on the Wi-Fi connection. And then once I'm stepping on outside, I'd seamlessly transition on over to my data connection on my phone. So in that regard, it's not as a needed kind of a feature out of glass as it is with the watch. So kind of a cool little app that they added. So there's certainly a lot more to come with app development and ideas for it. I look forward to like where I played with that little Qdoba barcode. That was me figuring out, okay, the screen is 320 by 320 pixels. So I made a blank image, then took my Qdoba card that was on my Google Wallet on the phone, took a screenshot of it, and then manipulated so I had the barcode and the Qdoba logo all inside that 320 size, saved it inside of a Google Keep note, and that's what I'm basically pulling up. I look forward to Google Wallet just having that functionality when there's just going to be an update to Google Wallet at some point in time, and I'll show for those who might be watching this later. I'm going to unlock my Google Wallet, and well, actually, there's the screen I left at of the Qdoba rewards card that's in Google Wallet. And if I go back just to my wallet, then you've got the new features of being able to send or request money, as well as that it has for add gift cards and loyalty programs, and you can track your orders and shows your latest transactions, etc. So the add gift cards is a relatively new thing, and then the loyalty programs, I used to use Keyring, and so now I'm actually just putting my loyalty programs right in here. So if I tap on that, go to loyalty programs, then you can see that I've got numerous cards, and my screen I know is very bright. Let me see if I dim it a little bit here. Okay. And so then I've got everything from a AAA card to Qdoba and Panera Bread and so on and so forth, and those cards are in there. So it'd be nice to, when you would physically be at Panera, instead of me having to go on in here and tap and have my Panera card come on up with the barcode there, come into Panera and have it say, are you at Panera? You tap and say yes, and all of a sudden your card comes up and it's ready for you to scan for your rewards program. Or likewise, if some merchants end up having something, say like Starbucks, that QR code or UPC is actually your form of payment, because then you've got like an account that you're charging your thing to. That kind of functionality, I look forward to seeing it as it expand, as there will be developers will say, here's a great way to be able to implement where. Another app that came with it that I played with was called MediSafe, and so it's basically a medication reminder. And so I'd put in for our cat, who has to take several different medications every day. So I'd put in as Blackie's information that he had to take this thing and this thing at 7 a.m. and this other one at 7 p.m. And all those reminders from MediSafe showed up on Wear. When it was time for that medication, then it would show up on the watch, as well as showing up on the phone, which then for me as well meant that it also was showing up on glass. So I wasn't missing those reminders, that's for sure. But it's little things like that I think are where Android Wear and these wearables are going to be going. It's just that notification of the stuff you need to know right now, and then otherwise long-term use and heavy-duty use is still going to be relegated to doing a phone, doing a tablet, that kind of thing. So that said, before I move on to some other stuff, do you have any questions, Mark? Because I know I kind of talked nonstop there on Wear.
I have to pull one earplug out. It's driving me crazy. Wear seems a lot more useful than all those other previous devices that had other operating systems and things. And it
like some of the Samsung ones. Yeah.
That it'd be something you would actually use instead of some sort of gimmick or something. Those others, they do pulse. They count how many steps you run or walk.
Well, this does this as well, but part of it was Samsung put some of that in, because on the back of this one does have, that's actually the little window you see is for heart rate. So it does do your pulse and it does track steps. Now, the one thing that cracks me up about the steps thing is I've got a Fitbit that I keep in my pocket. So that's with me from the moment that I get up in the morning and put on shorts, walking around getting ready for breakfast, etc., until the time that I go to bed. Then the Fitbit is on my body. And to track steps with a watch, even when the first thing I get up in the morning and if I put the watch on, that there could be times where I would end up taking it off, whatever it might be. Like the other day I was working out in the yard. I'm not going to be wearing this watch out to get scratched while I'm out there digging in the bushes and doing all sorts of things doing yard work. So for this to be your pedometer, it wouldn't be really getting all of your activity unless that you were going to take that risk, because it is water resistant. So you could be out in the rain or getting splashed on or doing whatever and technically be tracking your steps. But I just don't think that I would be as apt to have this on me all the time to accurately count all my steps as much as a true device, be it something that you, like one of those Fitbit Flexes to wrap around your wrist and it's just always on. Just, I guess, because part of it is that I almost treat it like it's a piece of jewelry, and I wouldn't want to scratch this thing all up, so
Right.
then there's times you just end up taking it off. But you're right, it does have things that are kind of like some of the gear and other devices that have been, and even I've talked to some friends at work who have Pebbles, and they still think that their Pebble is better than this. And I've even seen some write-ups where someone said, "Oh, Pebble's still got an advantage." I think that there was a guy that wrote an article just the other day that said something about it's like it's 1975 all over again, and he was comparing this to a 1975 ad showing a guy holding a big, huge IBM computer that was supposed to be like a personal computer in 1975, and that if we were to look at that with what we now have as computing, then we just go, look at that big, huge, clunky old thing, blah, blah, blah. So when people right now are looking at this and saying, my gosh, it's so big and ugly, or just like with glass, that it's like, this is first iteration. I've always joked with people and said, this is that cell phone from 40 years ago, and look where we're at with the technology. This will grow in the development of it, and it's going to shrink in the size of it, it's going to miniaturize in the form factor, etc. And same thing with this. This is just the baseline beginning. As some have commented, that the piece of hardware is kind of and yet the software potential is just enormous. So it's going to be cool. I'm excited about it. Obviously, with me having glass, it's redundant for me to have both. And when people have asked, then I say, if you don't have glass and you want to have these kind of notifications, this would be great and relatively affordable, $200. Certainly glass, there still isn't a retail price, and so the Explorer price is still $15. It's cost prohibitive. But if somebody already had glasses and was interested once it's commercially available, I still would be a proponent of saying I'd rather have glass than a watch. I haven't worn a watch in 20 years. So if it came down to it and someone said, man, you got to wear one or the other, I'd be like, okay, here's the watch, because I'm going to continue wearing glass. But that's just me. Because I could still do that scanning and all that kind of stuff from my phone. And it's very much a first world problem to say, oh my gosh, I don't have to get out my phone to actually have to scan it at Qdoba.
I was just going to say, those are first world problems.
Right.
That we solved with that.
So, but at this time, I know that those are some of the heckling they have to take as being a bleeding edge and adopting the technology early on, because it's like it's a solution looking for a problem. But I think that we're going to see a lot of solutions come from where, and this is just the beginning of it. You know, that's the thing.
One day there'll be the killer app, and then everyone has to have one. What was that? What was it on PC? That spreadsheet program, where that was.
Was it Lotus?
Before Office.
Was it Lotus, like Lotus 1, 2, 3?
Lotus 1, 2, 3. That's what it was. And then everyone had to have a computer.
So yeah, suddenly the realization that it's like, wow, now I need to have that too. And then, you know, there was just, I remember when people had computers and then they were arguing as to whether or not they needed internet. Or then once they actually had dial-up, then there was arguing as to whether or not they needed broadband. And now it's just like it's a given to end up having the broadband because demands that we put on it, and we just continue on. You know, now we've got broadband on our phones. Let me see, I've got some other things I wanted to cover, and I know that time can get away from me here as I get all talking about, where is it? Here we go, my dock. I've not played with Android L at all, so I really can't speak a lot about it. I know I've just been reading a lot about it, but with my Nexus 5 being my primary driver, I'm not about to go loading L onto it, as unstable as it is, as unfinished as it is. So I've not yet even had a chance, other than just watching demo videos of it and a lot of instructional stuff talking about material design and where they're going with the whole Android L, and you know, all the other, everything from using the different runtime environment, using Art instead of Dalvik and all that kind of stuff. I haven't been able to experience it, but it's certainly going to be exciting here in a couple months for us to end up having L rolling out onto Nexus devices, and We'll be talking about that more in the future, I know. So I don't know if you have anything to comment on it, but I know it's just kind of early stages, and I think it's just going to be taking it to another level.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to comment about that. I got a Moto X, and
Excellent phone.
that thing, it is just so fast and so snappy and so excellent. I'm just overjoyed with it.
I mean, it doesn't matter which podcast I listen to, that if somebody is not like anti-Android, then everybody from Kevin Toffel to Leo Laporte to Tom Merritt, I mean, there's so many people to say the Moto X. I mean, they just really, really love the Moto X. And of course, then I had gotten the Nexus, and so you can only have so many devices, so I opted to not go. I was very close to the Moto X, and then all of a sudden the Nexus was announced. So then I jumped on the Nexus, because before that I had strayed on off and gotten the Galaxy Note, and was suddenly dealing with AT&T as to when they felt like they wanted to do an update to the OS kind of thing. So as a matter of fact, I mean, this next iteration of the Moto X, whatever it's going to be called, X2 or whatever, this next iteration is probably going to get announced pretty quickly here.
Is that going to be a Lenovo phone?
No, it's supposed to be another Moto, but it's just I think it's going to be a little bigger, and some people have said they're a little disappointed at that because they love the size that the Moto X is. It fits well in the hand. And
that's a really good size. My brother got a S4, and that thing's just huge and clunky.
I really like the size of the Nexus 5. I love the rubberized feel of the back, etc. And I understand, because a friend of mine just got the LG G3, and from what I understand, that the Nexus 6 is essentially going to be the LG G3. That it's that LG is the manufacturer of it. Now, that's not sealed in stone, but rumor has it is that it's that's who is creating it. I'm looking here. Someone's Zach says he loves the Note 3. And the G3 is a beautiful device, but there is a part, because I came from the Galaxy Note 2, and I was totally fine with it. But once I came back to having the Nexus 5, I just liked how my hand wrapped around it better, rather than it being too large. But at the same time, I know as soon as the Nexus 6 comes out, then I'm going to get it. Might be a small chance that I could get the second version of the Moto X, just because there's been so many good things said about Moto. But at the same time, I'm enjoying just being in what I call pure Google land and just having a device that is a pure.
The X is really, really, really close to pure Google land.
And the extra touches they put on, unlike some other phones that ends up being bloat, is that stuff Moto put on there.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Rave about it. It's just like that. It's really good stuff. They implemented it very, very well.
It just really is. It's not crapware at all.
Yep.
That
very,
Samsung
very cool.
stuff is just total junk.
Yep. Let's see. I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that I just saw recently, just so I can mention them here on the video. Is Google Maps did some updates, and I haven't played the voice commands while navigating yet, but there's supposed to be some voice commands that you can give, say like, show me what is the traffic ahead, what time will I get there. But as I understand right now, the commands are a little bit particular. If you don't say it right, it will not work. So it's not as smooth as just talking to Google Now and doing a Google search that way. But they're getting there as far as to try to incorporate, which is pretty cool, because then if you're driving, you ended up having and of course, the Android in the car is coming as well. But even if you just hit, like, I've got my mount is light up by my rear view mirror, and if you were navigating and you have to reach over because you wanted to tap on traffic and show traffic or some other kind of thing, it'd be wonderful now to just give that voice command when they end up working like they should. It'd be safer, because then you could just it's almost like you're talking to hell. You say, so then how much longer have I got, or where's the nearest gas station? And then it would just be pulling up that info just by talking to it. Would be very cool. And then also they're testing an enhanced Explore Nearby feature, so trying to make maps a little bit more interactive, to where then you could just have an Explore Nearby. And then there's also something I hadn't noticed, and it could have been there for a while, but I just wanted to point it out because I saw it, and it's that you can play trivia in the map. It actually launches you on out. But in Google Maps, when you're in the navigation, if you scroll down at the bottom of the navigation, it says play map trivia, and it takes you out to a thing called Smarty Pins, and you can end up playing trivia that has to do with locations in the map and whatnot. And so I just wanted to point that out because I haven't played with it yet, but I was like, wow, isn't that just almost not, wasn't a Easter egg, but just a cool feature that's inside of Google Maps. And then while on the subject of Google Maps, is the other day my wife and I were walking through the park by our house, and she said that her friend wanted to know what the distance was once around the park. So I turned on Google My Tracks. And there's some people that aren't aware of My Tracks. So I'm just going to show just the app here real quick. As you can see it down in the lower corner, the little arrow, the gold arrow saying My Tracks. Mm-hmm. And when you open up My Tracks, then basically you have the ability to just hit the record button, and it will start recording your location of your track. And when you're done, hit stop, and now you end up having the route made. So then I'll show you, here was the route that we took around our park once I was done. And you can tap up at the top, and you see where it just shows stats and whatnot. So if I tap on stats, it says it was about a half a mile around, and it took us almost 11 minutes to walk it, etc. Well, then I hadn't played with this in a while, and I suddenly saw the little play button up there at the top. And this is going to be very rough because I'm going to be showing you from my phone onto the video, but I'm going to tap on this. And what it does is it opens up Google Earth.
Oh, cool.
And then we'll give it a moment here, or did it just crash?
Would you tap to do that?
There's a little play button up at the top if you've got your saved route. Okay, so now it's opening up Google Earth. And now it is doing a flyover of the route that we walked. It's almost like it's a helicopter, and so if you give it a moment here, it's going to, yep, it's just following. It's going to zoom in here now and follow around this curve around the walking path. Amazing. And this is all just in My Tracks. Now I also have Google Earth installed, so I think that if you did not have Google Earth installed, it might prompt you when you'd hit that play button, or maybe the play button wouldn't show. So you'd have to have Google Earth installed as well. But I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was very cool when I saw that. You can save the, it's called a KML file from the trip, and then be able to share it, and someone could open it up in a map. But it seems like this playing and seeing this feature is just there on your own device to be able to launch that from My Tracks, and then it opens up Earth and plays it. But still, nonetheless, very, very cool.
I used to use My Tracks. I gave it up for Run Keeper.
Yes.
They're a bit different though.
Yeah. But you know, I've played with My Tracks before. One day I was up at my mother-in-law's mowing, and it's many acres of grass, and I was up there mowing for like 4 hours, and I had turned on My Tracks and let it run the whole time. It was hilarious by the time it was done, because you just saw that red line was just like swiggling and swiggling. It was just like a kid had like colored in on a coloring book with just like a thin red marker, and it just had covered the whole yard, but it was just all of My Track. And yet it took you 3 hours and 53 minutes to mow, and your elevation was, and all that kind of stuff. And it would have been something to see that fly over. It would have made you nauseous.
My Tracks is very in order to see the map and everything, you have to be connected to the internet. But but it tracks just fine without internet.
Right, because it's just doing the GPS on that part, but then that other interaction.
So I use that in wilderness experiences where there is no internet connection.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then I was just already in Google Wallet and just wanted to cover just some of the updates that I saw on that. Is that like send and request money? So they've just added that functionality so that you could actually just send a request to somebody, as well as track orders. Already I was just getting orders just tracked like through Google Now, but they actually will just track inside of Google Wallet as well. So I think what they're trying to do is just get more stickiness to Google Wallet, to where there'd be more reasons that people would be in there rather than the occasional transaction. Now you're in there because of you have gift cards you've entered on into there, you've got loyalty cards you've entered into there, you can request money, so and track orders. So that just all of these particular things are just getting the visitation back to the app more and trying to get the usage of it up. I very much enjoy using it. I use it whenever there's a merchant that does have the PayPass, the MasterCard PayPass there at the register. Then I will, by all means, instead of even pulling out my debit card, because Google Wallet's just attached to my debit card and going to come out of my bank account anyway, then I'll use Google Wallet just because I can, and I look forward to being a more merchant so that I could use that functionality more. And Google Glass got some updates lately. One of them that's really cool is you just say, okay, Glass, show me the weather, and immediately it just pulls up an animated radar image of the area. Lately, as we've had some storms on some days, then I've also now was concerned as to whether or not what that line of storms look like. Obviously, again, it's not like almost like with Android Wear that you want to have a robust experience. You're going to open up the app on the phone, on a tablet, computer, whatever, and do all the perusing around of all the weather information you want. You want a quick glance to see what does the weather look like, and all of a sudden I'm seeing this huge line of storms that's off to the west of us heading this way. It's like, oh boy, yeah, it's getting nasty. I better go outside and pull up my blinds on the porch or they're going to blow off, that kind of thing. So it's just cool to have some of those updates, and they've done some other minor updates as far as some connectivity stuff, but otherwise, regarding Google Glass, my version is certainly a lot more stable lately, but there's still no closer and no mention of when they're going to be commercially available, so I have no news on that. Oh, and then some search tips that I recently heard about, and I haven't really played with these very much. I just made a note of them. One of them is you can now say, remind me occasionally, and I'm not sure what the determination is for the occasionally, but I'm going to try it right now. As a matter of fact, another thing with Google Search is with a recent update is you can go into the settings and tell certain phones for Google to just be listening, very much like the Moto X, which you've probably been experiencing this, but this is now just part of the Google Search, is that I could say, okay, the G word, and it'll immediately be listening. I had to say that on purpose right now. And it'll be listening anywhere in the phone when the phone is on. You can even have it on the locked screen, but I chose not to have it be on the locked screen, and instead just have it be only when I've got the phone on and unlocked, and then I can be wherever I'm at. So right now I'm inside of a Google Doc, and I'm going to say to remind me occasionally to take a bath. Okay? Okay, Google, remind me occasionally to take a bath. All right, so it's got tomorrow morning and 1 time. Isn't that interesting? So that didn't. I'm going to just cancel out of that. I thought that it was just going. This first time I played with it, I thought that it was just going to say, "Okay, reminder set," and then it would just randomly do. So, and it did have the occasionally in there. So I'm going to play with that more. But anyway, that is one of the things you can do with Google Search now. Another one is that if you're listening with Google Play Music, then you can say, okay, Google, play the next song. Play music.
When do you want to be reminded?
Cancel. Never mind. It's still on the take a bath. I don't. Yes, thank you. Okay. Oh, it came up with all sorts. For some reason, it just came up with all the different things that you can do inside of Google Search, and just brought up all the cards of like different things that you can end up doing.
Cool.
Set reminders, set messages, etc. I don't know if it's just because that
How do you get that card?
So that's actually part of just Google Now. So those cards just came on up, and yet I'm curious why, because it's got all of these, try more voice actions, set alarms, play music.
That's what I want to know is more things you can do.
I think that it might. I've never really paid attention to it, but usually stay like this screen that I've got where it was trying to set the reminder. That as I continue down, I think they've added this now, just so it could be informational. Like, look at all these other things that you could actually call up by doing a Google search for. So it's pretty cool to just let that be just further on down below the fold, where you explore and go, oh, how do I get to the Museum of Modern Art? And just telling people, you could just speak it. You don't have to go typing all of that. Just say, so I had a demo fail there on it. It reminded me occasionally, but I'm going to play with that more. And then the play the next song is supposed to be when you are listening to some music, you could say play the next song and it'll do it. And then the other one is if you went to do a search and it came up funky, then when the results showed there, you could say, okay, G word, no, I said, and then repeat it, and it'll correct it and move on. So you can actually it's almost very much a back and forth kind of thing. So it would come up and give that result, and then you're like, no, and do the correction, and then it will supposedly do the correction. So far, I've not had opportunity to play with that one either, but I made note of them just so I could try them out and see how it is, because admittedly, I don't do nearly as many voice searches as one would think that I would, being as much of a Google fanboy and Android nut that I am. Certainly I do an awful lot of voice interaction with Glass, but with my phone, I certainly do a lot of voice dictation. Everything from doing a post to replying to an email, that on my SwiftKey keyboard, I'll press that microphone and talk and talk and talk and talk rather than type. And then I'd rather just go back and make a couple corrections if there was something that it didn't transcribe correctly, but I could end up speaking a paragraph in an email in just moments versus having to try to peck all that out or even swipe it away on SwiftKey. I could still do it faster by just talking. But admittedly, I don't use that OKG word feature as much on my phone as I might think. And then also, it's kind of humorous that doing that OKG word with having the watch, and if the phone is on, now granted, Glass doesn't respond to that command. You have to say, OK, Glass, and it has to be on for it to respond. So I don't get it there, but there have been times where I'm interacting with the watch and I suddenly realize my phone just woke up, and you've probably experienced that with the Moto X, where if you're just happen to say that phrase, and also your phone wakes up because you were telling somebody about that you can just say that. You're like, no, phone, be quiet. I didn't mean for you to wake up. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting, because I would like the opportunity in the future to customize what you end up saying, so that you could name your device whatever you want to name it. And if it just happened to be Charlie, then you just suddenly go, okay, Charlie, and then, or hey, Charlie, and then it would bloop, what do you want?
Yeah, they can do that.
You know, but right now, you know that they want to plug Google as much as possible. I mean, they don't want for people to forget Google is the end behind this.
Right.
And so that I can understand in that regard that you know, for it to be okay. Although that the thing is, let me try it. Okay, Jarvis. Didn't do it. Okay, Jarvis. I thought there you could do Jarvis and a couple other things and make it wake up. So it looks like that they've got it pretty locked down. Another thing that they did recently is when you would go into the settings, and let me show on Google now that if I go down the bottom and go to settings and voice, that in the OK Google detection in the settings, nope, it just heard me again. Like that. In the settings, in the OK G word detection, that's where you can turn on and say from any screen, from the lock screen, and then it gives you a chance to train your voice. Did you train your voice in the Moto X?
Yes, it did. Okay,
so similar to that, to where you end up saying things a couple of times, and it even gives you an option now, since I've already done it, it says retrain voice model. So that it's trying to get, and then I also chose to share my voice data because it will help it get smarter, because it starts to recognize the timbre that you use, the inflection you use, and they're going to take all that, put it into algorithms, make it even smarter, which I am all for. I know some people might get creeped out from it, but I myself...
That works really well.
I'd rather it be more accurate. Yep.
My brother also has the Moto X, and we were okay Google now and all over the place. This is his first smartphone, so he hasn't messed around with them. So I have to show him everything. And we were both okay Google now, and our phones would only respond to us, individually. So that was pretty cool.
That's very cool. So that it does tell the difference, and I appreciate them working on that. I think that is something very much needed. Now, granted, I don't really have people messing with me when I've got Glass on and I'm trying to communicate something, but I've heard people say that people will mess with them and try to go, okay, Glass. It's interesting. I just said, okay, Glass, and my phone heard it. Let me try that again. Okay, Glass. Okay, Glass. That's weird. Now it's not doing it. But that they would say that and then say, Google, search porn or whatever, and thinking that the person's suddenly going to have porn showing up on their Glass. But what I have had happen is when I'm doing a demo and then the person didn't realize they had already said, okay, G, and now it's listening, and now they're talking, and this search ends up being this big, long thing. So, and it could be somebody even nearby who is talking and glass is hearing that. So glass could use that functionality as well to customize and know that it's, this person here that's talking to glass, not, somebody else. Although then that also, when you go to do a demo, then means it's not going to work as well, because the glass will be like, I'm sorry, I don't know you. But I'm not doing as many glass demos anymore. People have questions. I was actually telling my wife the other day that, interestingly enough, a while back, one of the most common questions about glass was, what's it like? Do you like it? And someone will see me and go, oh, is that Google Glass? Or they'll mispronounce it and say, is that Google Glasses? And I say, yes, it is. And then they'll say, what does it do? That is the question I get all the time now. And it's kind of interesting to see people evolve from, at first, someone would be like, what do you have on your face? And they didn't even know what Google Glass was. Or maybe then they saw briefly when it made the news and it was in the paper or on TV or something like that, and then someone would say, how is it? Or, what's it like? That kind of thing. And now it is, what does it do? So it just is fascinating to see that now it's then. So then I basically, if I'm in a hurry, I'll just say pretty much anything you can imagine that your phone can do, I can do with glass. It's an extension of the phone, but I can emails, text messages, read the news, take pictures, take video, post to Facebook, post to Google Plus, so on and so forth, and they're like, oh my gosh. But it's interesting. I keep hearing that exact same phrase. What's it do? So that's the phase I'm in right now with glass, and so it's not as many demos, but instead people just want to hear, what does it do? And so I try to give them the quick and dirty as much as I can. And also do a demo if time allows, if someone really wants to, but it's not like that I've got a bunch of people saying, oh, let me try it on. Instead, then they want to know what to do. So,
in a free software class that I do, I talked about a little bit about Android Wear, and people would say, why? Why? And I said, it's, well, right now, it's you can still ask that question. So you don't have to pull your phone out of your pocket. And they're like, well, I'll just use my phone, and maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but it's sometime in the future that would be really handy, and we just don't know we don't know the possibilities of these things yet.
Exactly.
Because it hasn't been around long enough.
Yeah. I can just see right now, I guarantee anybody who has bought one and is traveling, Delta, whoever else has their boarding pass now shows up on their watch.
Right.
So they go on up to that scanner, and they used to be doing it on their phone and just be using the Delta app and pull up the barcode and do it there. Well, now their phone can just already be tucked away in their bag or their pocket, and they're getting on the plane, and they now simply scan their watch and move on. It's a convenient thing. So it's not like someone will say, oh, boy, that was a huge savings. I didn't have to reach in my pocket. Oh, boy, that's...
So you've heard that too, huh?
Yeah. I mean, but the fact of the matter is that's just the beginning. Something as simple as that is solved that fast.
Right.
Gosh knows what we'll be able to do. We're already trying to think even from Humana to where, say, what kind of things for a member could we show through some of the apps that we have, could we possibly show on Wear, or ultimately an iWatch that we're going to be extending. Our computers are extending to be worn, aside from just being held in our hands. Our computers are now going with us, and so now this is just another screen for us to be able to view information, and it's not going to be everything, but it's going to be that stuff that is that you need to know. Very much that Google Now thing. I mean, Google's really got it going on with the whole Google Now thing, so that the watch vibrates in your next appointment, and it's telling you what time you need to leave for it. You can even do the navigation right from the watch. Maybe you're not driving. Maybe you are just walking. The navigation is going to just show up on the watch. You look down at the watch and it says, go down 2 blocks, turn to the right. You turn, and now it says, like, continue on for 4 blocks, and you'll be there, and just whatever the case might be, so that all that little stuff, it just is little solutions here and there that we're going to be discovering with them. So it's very exciting times.
Right now, I have no compelling reason to get a wearable device, but of course, and also the price. the price needs to come down.
Yeah, they certainly will. I mean, the Moto 360 is going to blow the price off, the doors off the price of these, as far as in a bad way. I mean, these, $199 for the Gear Live, and then for the LG G Watch it was $230, $229 or something like that. And I bet you it's going to be more in the $300 to $400 range for the Moto 360, which is really cost prohibitive if you ask me. I mean, that's going to be it's making it too exclusive.
It's kind of like the Chromecast. The Apple TV and the Google TV, or whatever it's called, Android TV, whatever it is. Those were fine, but even at the $100 price point, they weren't you wouldn't say, hey, $39.99, I've got to just grab one of those right now. It's like gum at the checkout counter.
Right. Yeah, I mean, definitely the Chromecast has gotten a lot of adoption due to the fact of that almost throwaway price. I mean, it's like a stocking stuffer type of a price. And yes, when there's going to be some other models that are going to come on out. Now, granted, one good thing about Wear, and I know that ultimately we ended up talking the majority of the time about Wear, but that's okay, is that Google is exerting a lot more control over Wear than just the regular Android phone platform. Definitely limiting people to what they can do with it, which is going to help for it to have some continuity, but then there will still be wide open for other manufacturers to end up making lesser expensive. Let this mature, and in the next year or two, there will just end up being dozens of watches, and someone's going to make one that's going to be $79, and that kind of thing. And so then just make it to where someone,
$79 for sure.
And so that they'll just because
it'll be better.
Exactly. I mean, it's going to continue to mature, and then they'll make ones that are stylish, and there's going to be ones that are going to be all sorts of colorful to make them inviting to teens, and then they of course going to have to be battling up against the i1 because that it's going to come out and just be a manufacturing thing of beauty, but it's also probably going to come at a premium. So I don't think they're going to end up making their watch very cheap. That's for sure.
Right.
So, well, that said, we've already run over a little bit here, but that's cool because we got started a little late. So, and Wes, I'm glad that it appears that you are still driving safely and you've been keeping your eyes on the road. So you're at least, hopefully we're able to just listen in on the conversation, but have safe travels wherever you're heading home.
I'm still heading home. I heard all the conversation.
Cool. So I'll be in touch with you guys because, again, like I said, I'm planning on wanting to have there be a get-together so that we can just have more of a meet and greet, handle hardware, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be looking to schedule something. I still like for the hangout itself just to be virtual so that people can just join at their convenience, be it if they're sitting on the couch or driving in the car. I don't condone that as being the safest thing, but you've been very safe in your implementation of doing both things, Wes, so I give you credit for that. It's very cool. And yeah, we'll still plan on something for a physical get-together, and I'm going to reach out to everybody and see what we can do and get something scheduled. So in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll be talking to you soon. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next Hangout in August.
Thanks, Matt. Take care.
All right. See you guys.